So my name is Monique Kil. I'm a dual MA/MSc student in the International and World History program, offered jointly by Columbia University and the London School of Economics. So I was studying at Columbia University last year, and I'm currently studying in London, but I got the opportunity to come back for the conference on Radio Free Europe and to present my research. Last year, while at Columbia University, I took a class with Professor Phillips, and I learned a lot more about soft power and cultural diplomacy. And one of the things I found was an advertisement from Radio Free Europe that focused on the notion of truth dollars. And I thought this was so fascinating, such an interesting concept. What do they mean, truth dollars? It got me curious, and I wanted to find out more about this concept, about this notion. For the RFE fellowship, I've been looking at advertisements that were used as part of a domestic fundraising campaign, the Crusade for Freedom. And I specifically looked at the notion of truth dollars, which was used in these advertisements. When I first saw the advertisements focusing on the notion of truth dollars, it made me laugh a little, and it made me question, would people at the time really have believed the messages that were put forward in these advertisements?
I'm Fatima Dar. I graduated from Columbia University in May 2016 with a major in political science, and I'm currently working in the consulting sector. And my research revolves around psychological warfare and soft power. I was very intrigued by the question about if there is a civilian or an individual who is not interested in an armed conflict being conducted by the nation state. Does he or she have a choice to not participate in it? And that really got me into thinking along the lines of where do we draw the line between a combatant and a non-combatant, and that drove my research around this project. So the driving question behind my research was about what was the impact of the relationship between television and Vietnam conflict, and towards the end of my research I concluded that this very relationship resulted in a change around rhetoric that was there to justify war. And previously the rhetoric was very othering centric. It was about us versus them. But as a result of the relationship between TV and Vietnam conflict, I noticed and I conclude in my research that this rhetoric around war switched towards being very soldier-centric. So the conversation around war, probably for the first time as a result of the Vietnam conflict, was about honoring, respecting, and protecting the troops. And that also kind of placed the journalistic community in an awkward position, because if they take an anti-war approach, it could be misinterpreted as being anti-troops. Most of my archival research was at the Open Society Archive in Budapest and Hoover Archive at Stanford. My focus was more towards finding the relationship between television and Vietnam conflict, and I was more interested in finding out the impact of television, and I found a lot of series of boxes and archival documents that talked about what the backlash looked like, what kind of broadcasts that were made, and images from the footages that were broadcasted on television. And I also focused on what was the impact and what kind of right-wing and left-wing responses came out as a response to the relationship between television and Vietnam conflict. And as Monique mentioned, that archival research, just like being in an archive and getting that experience and interacting with archivists, was a very learning experience.
It was also really interesting to realize that there are so many documents that have not yet been processed. So you really had to talk to the archivist, and they would be able to point you into different directions. So I suppose all of us found material that we weren't expecting to find necessarily, because it was not listed on the website initially.
Absolutely.
But absolutely a lot of documents that have enriched our research.
And just for me, looking into documents that were declassified, especially by the CIA, and just like knowing that these documents were once top secret and now they're available to us just to look into and research more, was very interesting.